Let us be honest about something that most gardening content refuses to say. Not every gardener wants to spend hours in the garden every week. Not every gardener has hours to spare. Some of us are busy, some of us are tired, some of us have physical limitations that make intensive garden work genuinely difficult. And some of us simply prefer to spend our time doing other things while still having something beautiful growing outside. There is nothing wrong with any of that. The garden should work for the gardener, not the other way around. And the good news is that there is a specific category of perennial flowering plants that were essentially designed for exactly this situation. Plants that bloom abundantly, return year after year, handle whatever the weather sends them without requiring you to be there to manage it, and still produce the kind of vivid, saturated floral display that makes a garden worth having. These are not the plants that garden centers put on the front table in spring because they photograph beautifully and need replacing every year. These are the plants that take care of themselves. The plants that thrive on mild neglect. The plants that handle rain, heat, drought, and benign inattention and come back every spring more beautiful than the year before. Today we are going through 12 of them. 12 perennial flowers that withstand mild rain, require minimal care, and provide vivid color season after season without asking much from you in return. Before the 12 plants, one important clarification about what minimal maintenance actually means in practice. Every plant on this list benefits from being watered through its first season while it establishes its root system. That is the one non-negotiable period of attention that all perennials need, and skipping it is the primary reason that low-maintenance plants fail in their first year. After that first establishment season, which typically takes one full growing season from spring through autumn, these plants manage their own water needs in all but extended drought conditions and require no regular intervention beyond what is noted for each species. One season of consistent attention, followed by years of reliable return. That is the actual maintenance trade-off that makes these 12 plants worth planting. One more thing worth saying before the list. These plants are not the ones that die if you miss a week of watering or fail to deadhead on schedule. They are specifically chosen because they handle the gap between ideal care and actual care without complaint. The gap between what gardening books say you should do and what most people actually have time and energy to do. That gap is where these 12 plants live, and they thrive in it. Today we are going through 12 of them. 12 perennial flowers that withstand mild rain, require minimal care, and provide vivid color season after season without asking much from you in return. Plant 1 is Rudbeckia Black-Eyed Susan. If there is a more cheerful, more indestructible, more generously blooming perennial for the low-maintenance garden, it has not made itself widely known. Rudbeckia produces its golden yellow flowers, with the deep chocolate brown centers from July through October, a 4-month bloom season that most perennials cannot approach. It handles mild rain without any fungal disease issues. It handles drought once established. It handles poor soil with indifference. It self-seeds reliably, which means that a planting of 3 Rudbeckia plants becomes a colony of 12 or 15 over 3 seasons without any action from the gardener beyond leaving the seed heads standing through winter. Hardy in zones 3 through 9, full sun. The Goldsturm cultivar is the most reliable and most widely available, producing uniformly golden flowers on compact 18-inch plants that hold their form through the entire bloom season without flopping. Plant 2 is Echinacea coneflower. One maintenance detail about Rudbeckia that experienced low-maintenance gardeners consider important. Do not deadhead in autumn. The instinct to tidy spent flowers at the end of the season removes the seed heads that both feed winter birds and provide next season's self-seeded plants. The garden that leaves Rudbeckia standing through winter has a built-in bird feeding station from October through February and a self-expanding planting that grows year after year without any action from the gardener. For the genuinely low-maintenance approach, the correct autumn care for Rudbeckia is to do nothing at all and let the plant finish on its own terms. Plant 2 is Echinacea coneflower. Echinacea purpurea is the prairie plant that was growing in the wild long before anyone thought of putting it in a garden, and that evolutionary background is exactly why it performs so reliably under low-maintenance conditions. The root system is deep, drought-tolerant, and capable of surviving dry periods that would kill most conventional garden plants. The flowers, rose purple with raised orange-bronze centers, bloom from July through September. The seed heads that replace the flowers provide food for goldfinches and chickadees through the winter months. Echinacea self-seeds modestly, expanding the planting naturally over time. Hardy in zones 3 through 9, full sun to light shade. Rain does not bother it. Drought does not stop it. Division is optional and never urgent. It simply grows, blooms, and comes back. Plant 3 is Salvia nemorosa, woodland sage. The quality of echinacea that makes it so suited to the low-maintenance garden is what happens when it is not divided. Most perennials become less productive when the central clump becomes crowded, creating a division requirement every few years. Echinacea does not have this problem. A clump that is never divided spreads outward through self-seeding, the outer seedlings replacing the occasionally declining center, while the planting maintains and gradually expands itself. The low-maintenance gardener does not divide echinacea. They allow it to find its own equilibrium in the space it has been given. Plant 3 is Salvia nemorosa, woodland sage. This is the salvia that serious perennial gardeners consider essential and that many beginning gardeners walk past without noticing. The flower spikes are vivid blue-purple, produced continuously from late spring through midsummer on plants that stay compact, tidy, and self-supporting. After the first bloom flush, cutting the spent spikes back by half produces a second and sometimes a third flush of flowers through the season. Even without that intervention, the plant blooms reliably. Hardy in zones 4 through 8. Full sun. Drought-tolerant, deer-resistant, rain-tolerant, and essentially pest-free. Caradonna is the variety that has become most beloved among perennial gardeners for its particularly deep violet flowers on dark, near-black stems. Maynite is equally vivid and equally reliable. Both are compact. Both come back every year without fail, and both handle whatever weather arrives with complete indifference. Plant 4 is Agastache, hyssop. The one thing that distinguishes a Salvia nemorosa planting that performs at its best from one that is merely acceptable is the midsummer cutback after the first bloom flush. This takes approximately 5 minutes for an established plant, and it effectively doubles the bloom season. Cutting the spent flower spikes back by half in late June or early July produces new flower spikes within 2 to 3 weeks. The second flush of bloom often lasts well into September. For a plant that requires this single 5-minute intervention once per year, the return in extended vivid bloom is among the best in the perennial garden for any amount of effort. Plant 4 is Agastache, hyssop. Agastache produces tall spikes of tubular flowers in vivid orange, coral, blue, or purple from midsummer through frost, an extended bloom period that makes it genuinely useful in the late summer garden when many spring and early summer perennials have finished. The flowers are intensely attractive to hummingbirds and to bees, making an Agastache planting simultaneously beautiful and ecologically functional. Hardy in zones 5 through 10, depending on variety. Full sun, well-draining soil where it thrives without any intervention. The critical requirement for Agastache is drainage rather than specific soil quality. In well-draining soil, it tolerates drought, heat, and mild rain without difficulty. In heavy or waterlogged soil, it struggles. Given appropriate drainage, it is one of the most self-sufficient flowering perennials available in its bloom period. Plant 5 is Penstemon, specifically the hybrid varieties developed for garden performance. Agastache is also one of the most effective plants for creating the sense of a garden full of life and movement, because the hummingbirds and bees it attracts are constantly active around the flower spikes from midsummer through autumn. A garden with established Agastache in late August has a quality of activity that gardens without it do not have. The tubular flowers are precisely shaped for hummingbird bills. Hummingbirds return to the same plants repeatedly through the day, and the combination of vivid flower color with the constant movement of feeding birds creates an atmosphere that goes well beyond what the plant alone provides. Plant 5 is Penstemon, specifically the hybrid varieties developed for garden performance. Penstemon produces tubular flowers in a range from deep red through pink, lavender, and white from late spring through midsummer, with some varieties providing a second bloom in late summer. The tubular flower shape is specifically adapted for hummingbird feeding, making Penstemon one of the most reliable hummingbird plants in American horticulture. Hardy in zones 4 through 9, depending on variety. Full sun to light shade, well-draining soil. Like Agastache, Penstemon's critical requirement is drainage. In appropriate drainage conditions, it handles mild rain, moderate drought, and summer heat without difficulty. Husker Red adds the bonus of striking wine-red foliage through the entire growing season, making it a garden presence even when not in flower. Plant 6 is Hemerocallis, the re-blooming daylily. Standard daylilies bloom for 3 weeks and then contribute nothing but foliage for the rest of the season. The reblooming varieties, Stella d'Oro, Happy Returns, and Purple d'Oro among them, flower from late spring through frost in a good year with only short resting periods between flushes. The foliage suppresses weeds between bloom periods. The plants are essentially indestructible once established. Rain does not harm them. Drought does not stop them once the root system is established. Hardy in zones 3 through 9, full sun to light shade. One note that should always be included with daylilies: every part of the plant, including pollen, is acutely toxic to cats. For any garden with cat access, daylilies should be replaced with another plant from this list. Plant 7 is Leucanthemum, the Shasta daisy. The compact reblooming daylilies are also among the most effective weed suppressors on this list. The dense foliage that fills in between bloom periods covers the soil surface sufficiently to prevent most weed germination within the plant's footprint. A bed planted with adequate density of compact reblooming daylilies is a bed that requires minimal weeding, not because the gardener has done anything to prevent weeds, but because the daylily foliage is doing that work continuously. This weed suppression benefit compounds in value over the seasons as the planting matures and the foliage canopy closes completely. Plant 7 is Leucanthemum, the Shasta daisy. The Shasta daisy produces the classic large white petals around a yellow center that is one of the most universally recognized and most beloved flower forms in the garden. It blooms from June through August on upright stems that are strong enough to hold through mild rain without flopping. Hardy in zones 4 through 9. Full sun. Average, well-draining soil. Becky is the variety most often recommended for reliability and longevity, producing tall, strong stems and large flowers that hold well through summer weather. Deadheading spent flowers extends the bloom season, but even without deadheading, the plant is attractive and productive. Division every 2 to 3 years keeps it vigorous and prevents the center of the clump from dying out, which is the one maintenance practice that Shasta daisy genuinely benefits from. Plant 8 is Gaillardia, blanket flower. Gaillardia produces some of the most vivid, most intensely colored flowers available in the perennial world. The flowers are large daisies in combinations of red, orange, and yellow that have the visual impact of a small sun in the garden. They bloom from June through October, one of the longest bloom seasons on this list. Hardy in zones 3 through 9. Full sun. Poor, dry, well-draining soil where it thrives with almost no attention. Gaillardia is one of those plants that actively performs better with less care, more bloom, and more vigor in lean, dry conditions than in rich, amended soil. Rain does not harm it. Division every 2 to 3 years prevents the center die-out that can develop in mature plants. Otherwise, it simply blooms, week after week, in vivid, saturated colors that photograph beautifully and require nothing from you. Plant 9 is Nepeta, catmint. The drought performance of Gaillardia is worth emphasizing specifically for gardeners in hot summer regions who have struggled with perennials that look exhausted and stop producing by August. Most flowering perennials slow or cease their bloom production in extended summer heat and drought. Gaillardia does not. It frequently blooms more vigorously in the July and August heat than it does in the cooler conditions of June, because the dry summer heat is close to the conditions it evolved for on the American prairie. For gardeners who want vivid color specifically in the months when most perennials have given up, Gaillardia is one of the very few reliable solutions available. Plant 9 is Nepeta, catmint. Catmint produces long wands of lavender blue flowers from late spring through summer, and after a midsummer cutback, again through autumn. The silvery gray aromatic foliage is as attractive as the flowers and persists through most winters in zones 4 and warmer. Deer and rabbits avoid it completely because of the aromatic oils. Bees find it irresistible. Rain does not affect it. Drought does not stop it. Hardy in zones 4 through 8. Full sun to light shade. Average to dry soil. Walker's Low is the variety that has become most widely used and most widely loved, producing a mounding habit at approximately 18 inches that is compact, well-behaved, and consistently beautiful through a very long season. Plant 10 is Veronica spicata, spike speedwell. Veronica spicata produces elegant upright spikes of small, densely packed flowers in vivid blue, pink, or white from June through August. The vertical flower spike is a shape that many gardens lack among their flowering perennials, and Veronica provides it in a compact, self-supporting, rain-tolerant form. Hardy in zones 3 through 8. full sun to light shade, average, well-draining soil. The plants are compact, tidy, and require essentially no maintenance beyond the optional deadheading that extends the bloom. Royal Candles in vivid blue-purple and Red Fox in warm rose-pink are the two varieties that perennial gardeners return to most consistently for their reliable performance and vivid color. After the main bloom period ends in August, cutting the spent spikes back produces a modest second flush of bloom in September that extends this plant's contribution to the low-maintenance garden further into the season. Plant 11 is Platycodon balloon flower. The balloon flower earns its name from the distinctive balloon-shaped flower buds that inflate to full size before opening into 5 pointed star-shaped blooms in blue, pink, or white. The effect of seeing dozens of these buds on a single plant, all in various stages of inflation, is one of the most charming in the summer garden. Balloon flower blooms from July through September. Hardy in zones 3 through 8, full sun to partial shade. Well-draining soil. It is one of the slowest perennials to emerge in spring, not showing itself until late May or even June in cooler zones. Mark its location to avoid accidentally digging it up before it appears. Once it does appear, it grows quickly and requires no further attention through the season. Plant 12 is Achillea yarrow. Balloon flower requires one accommodation that other plants on this list do not. Because it emerges so late in spring, sometimes not showing visible growth above ground until late May or June, it is easy to assume the plant has not survived winter and to dig the space. Marking the location in autumn with a small labeled stake prevents this mistake. The plant is dormant underground and completely alive. Once it does appear in late spring, it grows quickly and reliably through the season. The late emergence is the only quirk this plant has, and it requires nothing more than a label to manage. Plant 12 is Achillea yarrow. Yarrow produces flat-topped clusters of tiny flowers in yellow, white, pink, red, and coral from June through September. The flowers dry on the plant in a way that maintains much of their color, providing interest in the garden and in cut and dried arrangements through the autumn. Hardy in zones 3 through 9. Full sun. Poor, dry, well-draining soil where it thrives without any amendment. Like Gaillardia, yarrow actively performs better in lean conditions than in rich ones. Rich soil produces floppy, overly vigorous growth that undermines the plant's naturally tidy form. Rain does not bother it. Drought encourages it. Division every 2 to 3 years keeps it vigorous. The Galaxy series provides the widest range of flower colors in the most reliable and consistent plants. Moonshine offers the most vivid sulfur yellow. Paprika provides a warm red-orange that weathers to soft salmon as the season progresses. 12 plants, all perennial, all rain-tolerant, all minimal maintenance, all providing vivid color across the growing season. You do not have to be in the garden every week to have a beautiful garden. You have to make one set of good decisions at planting time, and then let these plants do what they were made to do. The combination of these 12 plants across a single planting area creates a garden that has something vivid and interesting in bloom from May through October without significant gaps. Salvia nemorosa and penstemon provide the late spring color. Rudbeckia, Echinacea, Gaillardia, and reblooming daylilies carry the main summer display. Agastache, catmint, and coneflower extend into late summer and early autumn. Veronica, Achillea, and balloonflower fill the mid-border throughout. And the seed heads, dried Achillea clusters, Rudbeckia cones, and Echinacea domes provide the winter structure that keeps the garden from looking completely empty in the coldest months. One planting decision, made once. Everything after that is return. 12 plants, all perennial, all rain-tolerant, all minimal maintenance, all providing vivid color across the growing season. You do not have to be in the garden every week to have a beautiful garden. You have to make one set of good decisions at planting time, and then let these plants do what they were made to do. Drop a comment telling me which of these 12 plants is already in your garden and which one you are most excited to add. I read every comment. Give this a thumbs up if it made low-maintenance gardening feel genuinely achievable, and subscribe for practical perennial gardening content every single week.